It is important that we reset the clocks. And for any Nigerian, it's important that you have a virile opposition. Nigeria has not, and I'll admit this, the PDP has not been a virile opposition in the last 2 years. Why? Because you have people like this festering and fostering the problem. We shouldn't even be discussing this today. We should be discussing the new outlook of the new ESCO of PDP and what they intend to do differently. Okay.
Earlier you said nobody was able to call out the minister until the lieutenant,
yes,
the naval officer did that. Stood up to him. Does that not show, does that show that the PDP that had the power to discipline its members, you have the board of trustees, you have the NEC, you have elders of the party, and I remember those people who say they have a way of dealing with
internal mechanisms.
Now, is that not an indictment on the system in the PDP that they could not call their own to order until a military officer did that?
No, I think what had happened, it was eventually going to happen. But you see, maybe Wike should have been aware of the eyes of November. You know, maybe he should have been aware that an undoing will come. You know, sometimes you just carry on and think that you're invincible. But God is the only invincible being that reigns supreme in the affairs of man. And we must respect that. You must be careful, you must be cautious, you must respect institutions. If you are not with PDP, simply focus on where your bread has been buttered and service that institution. Do not become a clog in the wheel, because it's not just that. I'm not even speaking because I'm a PDP member. I'm speaking as a Nigerian who understands the implications of not having a virile opposition. Whether it is PDP, APC, let me tell you, in 2014, Doyin Okupe, then SSA to President Goodluck Jonathan, had a small tete-a-tete with us and was going to brief the president about APC as a threat as was being formed. And then most everybody was telling him, don't make sure they are not formed. And I raised the loudest opposition to that and said, no, we need opposition. Let me tell you, in the last 3 weeks since Donald Trump made his comments about Nigeria, have you seen how the Nigerian government has been? 2 years, they didn't appoint ambassadors. All of a sudden, they are running everywhere. They are more active on social media. They are now telling us things. They are speaking. We are seeing action. And I said, Donald Trump playing the role of opposition. What you need is an opposition to galvanize government. And anybody that is stopping that from happening does not mean well for the country. Because even every human being needs to go to the gym. You need to challenge your body. So government needs to be kept on its toes. And anybody stopping that must be resisted. It doesn't matter what it takes. It doesn't matter what will come after you resist that person. But definitely, by all means, necessary and dictated by your dedication to the country, you must resist that person and continue to keep government on its toes. The government is coming out with a policy. I expect the PDP, and we will start doing that now, you will see. I expect the PDP to say, no, you can't do this. Why are you doing this? Provide alternatives.
All right,
but not where somebody is suffocating, somebody is choking, somebody is oppressing the political party. Let me tell you, what you saw on Saturday was an unraveling. You said the PDP could not deal with that. Yes, they could not, until they got to a convention and a motion was moved. Because any other thing would have been aborted. The governors are in control of the NEC. So imagine a Fintry at NEC and you want to expel Wike. He will not allow that NEC happen now. So the only way that it could have been done was at a convention. And it doesn't matter what happens next, because the PDP has exercised itself of the weight, the excess weight that has been keeping it down. Now it's lean, mean, and watch out for what it's going to do.
Well, Anthony, it's a good one that you cited all these issues, but let's take a look at the internal mechanisms of the PDP. And now that public trust is at an all-time low in the PDP, we see exit of governors, we see exit of senators, lawmakers, and all of that massively out of the party. Can you identify any concrete action, not just slogans now, not just, mere words, that will reignite trust in the PDP to see it as a viable opposition?
First, 15th, 16th, the convention has held. Regardless of every obstacle that was put in its way, convention has held, right? About those that have defected, Saharas, you can't take their news for what it is. But Sahara says that some governors got as much as 350 billion to move. There are reports that some were coerced, some were forced, some EFCC files were revealed to them, and they had to move. I speak to people in some states that some governors have moved. You know what they tell me? We will vote for our governor, but we're not going to vote APC at the federal level. So it doesn't matter whether people have moved, they will make up their minds and do what they want to do. In 2023, I was with someone who was polling for the elections, and we called it in Delta State. Delta State was going to get 13% at the presidential. We polled for the state, and Delta State was incidentally going to win at the state level, which meant the people could distinguish between which election was more important to them to preserve their party or whatever they wanted to do.
So now if you're admitting to monetary inducement, how are you so sure that that is not the situation that will play out in 2027? If they were able to coerce some of your governors to leave your party and you're alleging monetary inducement, how are you sure that the people will not be induced as well?
And when you have a cleanse, you have a few righteous few who come up to the front, and they cannot be induced, they cannot be bought. But if we had gone the way other people were suggesting and had a compromise of people who were sponsored, so Wike will bring some of his people, Sam Daddy will bring some of his people, those are the people that would have been compromised in 2027. But when you have people who have seen that they had to do an expulsion on a convention ground, which is relatively, I think only Vincent Ogbulafor was expelled ever at a convention, right? This is the second time, very, very, very senior members of the party. Now you've seen that happen. Are you going to still compromise your party? So it's a lesson for many.
So ahead of 2027, would you say that the PDP is done with the court cases? Because those you just expelled are not done with going to court.
Of course, mischief makers will continue what they have to do. But the courts, the Supreme Court...
So how do you keep fighting in the courts when election is just less than 2 years down the line?
Well, I don't think these matters will get into... It's a matter of national importance for the courts, and the courts usually take these matters very serious. I think all the way to the Supreme Court, 7 months, give or take. But everybody knows where they stand. Everybody knows what is happening. And some of these things, by the time it gets, will become an academic exercise, because the party would have since sat on what it needs to be and be what it needs to be. And by the way, don't think that there are no other options, escape routes, and things that these people have planned. You know, we cannot sit back and allow it. There's been a full stop. The cancer has been exercised. It will try to fight back. We know this. And that's why the current chairman of the PDP is a senior advocate of Nigeria. So if it comes to legal battles, you're sure that you have an experienced person at the helm of affairs. But what is more important is the service to Nigerians by the party. Every party has a service expectation from the people. If you're an opposition party, you're expected to provide virile opposition. If you're a ruling party, you're supposed to provide programs and policies that will drive better your state, your country forward. And that's what we expect. That's the minimum, the bare requirement, the barest requirement that is expected. So we're not just, I won't sit here and speak out of malice. I have no beef. I have nothing against anybody, but I will speak the truth. And I'll tell you, if you don't do this, these are the consequences. In 2015, we had progress, but it was truncated. Look at where we are today. The dollar is 1,450 and we're celebrating. The dollar was 185 at that time. But we won. That are stable macroeconomics and microeconomics, but people thought it was just false talk.
All right.
But we're back here. And PDP needs to get Nigeria back to 2015. At least, at the barest minimum, reverse these things. Let me tell you, today, the average Nigerian has no trust in your public institutions. He has no trust in INEC. He has no trust in the judiciary. He has no trust, even in the political system. But I tell you what, we need to bring back this sort of public confidence in all these institutions.
All right.
We hear you, and indeed,
we must bring back
public trust, because that is quite genuine.